everyone, this is Bev from Art by Bedell, and how are all of you doing this morning? I hope you're doing well. We are doing well here today. We have a nice, beautiful sunny day. Sammy and I were able to get out and go for a nice little walk, and that's always a pleasant thing to do. Our prompt for today for Junk Journal January on January 6th, is memory. And I'm thinking, what memory would I like to kind of promote here in my journal? Try to remember. So I have gotten out my watercolors and get a little bit of blue here. And I'm going to tell you about a memory that I have while I'm just putting on a little bit of paint on my page. I need to get a couple pieces of protected paper underneath here. Oh, let me find them. And I have not primed this ledger paper, but this paper, before I put it in my journal, is a page out of a gardening book, it looks like. And it has some gesso on it and some stenciled fern on it. But this page over here, I've done nothing to. So anyhow, a memory that I have is I guess my strongest memory, other than my kids, of course. Anything with my family, of course, would be the strongest memory. But the next strongest memory that I have would be my time that I had when I had my own little business. It was a retail store for rubber stamping and scrapbooking. The fun we had within those walls was just like, wow. We really had a lot of fun. There was a lot of tears. People would come in with their heart on their sleeve, and by the time they left, I think they were feeling better. A shop like that tends to, when you're a person like we are, an artist, and we go to a store that has all kinds of craft supplies or whatever, don't we just feel better when we come out of there? It just seems like a little bit has been lifted off our shoulders because we got to view some new products, some new papers, what have you. It just is a fun place to go. And so that happened there. Well, let me go backtrack to this memory. A friend of mine came up to me one day and she says, "You won't believe what I seen." And I'm like, well, what's that? So she proceeded to tell me about this craft thing where you can make paper embossed. And I'm like, you can do what? And she was telling me all about how she had seen somebody was taking some paper and putting an image on it and embossing it. Well, at that point in our lives, she and I were working on making greeting cards and selling them. And we thought, oh my goodness, that could really up our greeting card as far as the value of it and just the design quality of it would just embossed cards. So she was telling me about it, and I'm like, well, I really need to see this. I need to see what you're talking about. So we went to the shop one day, and mind you, this was like, wished I had the dates so I could tell you exactly when it was, but it was a long time ago. Believe me, it was a long time ago. Oh gosh, like I say, I wished I could remember. Okay, my 23-year-old granddaughter was probably 3. No, actually, it was the year she was born, I think, that I opened my shop. So it's 23 years ago that she had told me about this, and I had to see for myself, of course. And so we went to the shop where it was way up on a hill outside of town, on a little country road, on a farmstead, and in the milk house was this shop. There were rubber stamps all over the place, and some paper and some inks, and we were just like, oh my gosh, embossing powders. And that was the basis of it back then, was the stamps, the inks, the embossing powders, the papers, and you made cards. They were doing cards at that time. And of course, we all knew that the hobby and the industry just went berserk. It just went crazy after that. It was a huge hit. So anyhow, we were getting into this, and we bought several different colors and embossing powders. Now there weren't anywhere near as many colors of embossing powders or anything available at that time. It was pretty basic. It was, the industry was just opening up. So we got into it, and we were having fun down in her basement and what have you. And then one day I went up to this lady's house, up to the shop out in the Milk House, and the lady came down from her house, and she was just open by drop-ins or if you call or whatever. I don't think she had regular hours. So anyhow, she came down and she says, "You." And I looked at her and I thought, what did I do wrong? I'm like, yes. Because I really didn't know her other than through the shop, and didn't know her that well even at that. And she says, "You are going to buy my shop." And I'm like, "I'm going to do what?" She says, "You're going to buy my shop." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think so." And she says, "Yes, I had a dream last night, and that you were the one that was going to be buying my shop." Well, I was astounded, first of all, because the shop was for sale. I'm like, really? So I went home, and come to find out that he's now my ex-husband, my husband at the time, knew this lady because we owned a butcher shop. And that was our family, that was our support for our family, was this butcher shop that had been in his family for many, many years. Through that butcher shop, he knew her and her family because he had done business with them. Remember, I said it was a farm. And so anyhow, I told him what she said. I said, "She said I was going to buy this shop." And he's like, "Oh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you think of that?" So that was pretty much where it went from, you know, at that day. I don't think we talked too much more about it then, but I went to sleep that night. And when I woke up the next morning, I had this feeling that, yeah, I'm going to buy that shop. Like, how in the heck are you going to buy that shop, let alone run the shop? Oh my gosh, I went out and I talked to my like I say, my husband, ex-husband, and he was agreeable to it. Well, number one, I never thought in a million years he would agree to something, you know, quite extravagant as that. Okay, I'm liking what I have here going on with my watercolors and this nice, very colorful background. So I'm going to dry this and I'll be right back. So in honor of the memory that I'm telling you about, we are going to do some gold embossing. I mean, that's what brought it all about, was this embossing thing that everybody was talking about that was so unique. And goodness, anyhow, you have to have, it doesn't have to be Versamark. It's just was my ink pad of choice. But you have to have an embossing ink. There are many different kinds out there now. Back in the day, there was just like one or two. Does anybody remember the PSX, Personal Stamp Exchange Stamp Company? That was one of my main companies, sources of where I bought my product. Anyhow, I am stamped with Versamark. I'm kind of going back and forth here, so I hope you guys can keep up with me as far as telling you my story and also working on a project at the same time. My spoon seems to be gone. So, let's take this piece of paper and let's just dump our powder. So I have some gold powder, and where I stamped, I want to put some powder on it. Like that. So anyhow, my ex was very agreeable to it, and I'm like, well, where in the world would we put it? Well, we both kind of mulled it over for a couple of days, and just like, well, I don't know, where would we put it? And he came up with some wild ideas that I was just like, no, no. You know, sometimes guys don't have the best ideas, right? Well, anyhow, then he finally came up with the idea, well, we had a 6-bay pole building that was a garage, and we weren't usually using it, all of it. We were using some of it, but not all of it. And he says, well, you can have 2 bays of the garage. And I'm like, really? You're going to give up 2 bays of your big garage? Yeah, you can have 2 bays of the garage. So the next thing was, okay, I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to heat set this, and then I'll be right back so I can move on. All right, so folks, this is what started the whole thing, was this embossing here 23 years ago. I don't think that this was much in my territory as far as a thing until those 23 years. I think I got involved with it pretty soon after it came to my area. I know out in California it was popular then, out there a lot sooner. I'm mumbling. Anyhow, so I have watercolored and I have did some embossing. The watercolor was what we would tend to use to color our images when we put them after we embossed them. And then we would color them with a watercolor, whether it be Tombow markers, which are a water-based, or there was some twinkling H2Os that were very popular back in that time that were a watercolor, or just plain watercolor. Those were some of the things that we used to color our images. And so for memory, I have included the embossing and the watercolor. Anyhow, back to my story as I proceed here with this. So the next thing was to, well, of course, the building was okay for a garage, right? But I wanted it to be a shop. And if I, was going to have a shop, I really wanted it to look nice, right? Although the uniqueness of it being in a milk house was a calling card also for it. But we just so happened that my contractor, who is my brother, had time. He had time, like right then, that he could, the next week, start on taking those 2 bays and transforming them into a shop for rubber stamp and scrapbooking. It was just like, really? You have time? Because usually it's like, oh, I can't get to it for a few weeks. And there he was saying, well, I have time next week. So we proceeded and bought the shop, and my brother took care of building the 2 bays into a nice little shop. Long story short, as time went by, I ended up with expanding twice, I think. And in the end, I had the use of the whole garage. The whole garage was now the Sunflower House. we were very busy. We had so much fun was had. It just was a 7.5 years. Probably some of the best years of my life, aside, like I say, from what I have going on with family. Yeah, that's one of the best memories that I have. So, also, in lieu of that, the name of the shop was the Sunflower House. So I'd like to take this stencil and I want to cover it with some modeling paste. Now, back then, we didn't have any modeling paste or even some of the things that we would do to have fun and to learn new techniques and what have you would be to get a bus and head on out to the nearest, which happened to be in Ohio, rubber stamp convention. And whoever from the shop wanted to go, of course, we would go and spend the whole day, and oh my gosh. You talk about fun. So here I am taking some light modeling paste, and I have this sunflower stencil. I bought these stencils through Amazon. So if I can find the link to them, I will list it down below. We'll get this on here. Trying not to get too much into the crevice of our signature, into the spine of our signature. Here we go. So we have enough on there. Let's take this off. And then when oh my gosh, look at that, how pretty that is, right? Yeah. So when I use my stencils like this, and I use it with modeling paste, this turns hard. So I take my stencils usually and wash them right up along with my palette knife. I get that washed up too. So first off though, I think I want to maybe just go into my seam and just wipe away a little bit of that modeling paste. There, I hated to do that because I did get a nice image, but my book will close better if I have that done. So I am going to take this and let this all dry. Meanwhile, I'm going to go wash my stencil, my palette knife, and then I'll be back. All right, so keeping in line with doing some watercoloring, I'm going to pull out my Distress crayons again, and I want to color my sunflower. So I'm going to take my crayon, and rather than rub it on the embossing, the modeling paste, I'm going to pick up some color with my brush that's wet, and pick up the color from my crayon and paint my sunflower. I think I need to work at getting a little more paint on my brush here. There we go. And we're going to have to get this quite a bit darker if it's going to show through all of those bright, bright colors that we have. So maybe I will just take my crayon and rub it, and then take my brush and pull the color out. And that's, I think, going to work better. It's going to be quicker anyhow. It gets more pigment on there faster. There we go. So we would spend in my shop many hours just coloring, whether it's with markers or watercolors or whatever we had available 23 years ago. There we go. I love how the industry has evolved. It's gone from like one thing after another, yet keeping the card making, keeping the scrapbooking, you know, keeping every avenue that there was. I mean, we did artist trading cards, you know, 20 years ago. That certainly wasn't a new thing to be doing, you know, within the last couple of years. What else did we do? We did repurposed art. One year we took globes, the world globes, and we altered those, and that was a lot of fun. We had altered book clubs, and of course they were a ton of fun too. And the creativity that came in and out the doors of the shop was just so much fun. There was a very, very diverse group of people that came through with so much to offer. It was fun. It was just, what can I say? It was pure fun. It made work, although I never really called it, I guess I did say I was going to work, but it didn't ever seem like work. It seemed like, for me, it was just an extension of who I was, aside from being a mom, you know. Of course, I was a mom first, but being an artist was just who I am, just who, and so it showed through in the shop with everything that we had done. Anyhow, this is turning out kind of nice, and I'm deciding that these crayons that I haven't used in quite a while, I got them back out the other day when we did the prompt throwback, and they were sitting here, and I thought, well, I'll use them today too. And this is turning out to be a quite pretty sunflower. So I'm going to work on this, probably work on this for quite a while, because I want to add like different layers of the crayons, but I don't know that you guys really want to watch me just continually add color to this. So I will be back when I decide, when I get this yellow done and I start to add another color, and I'll be back to show you what I'm doing there. All right, I have that color done. Now I want to add some brown to it, and what I have is walnut stain, and hopefully that won't be too dark. Let me take a peek of it on here. The other one I have is Vintage Photo. I'm going to go with Vintage Photo. I'll add the walnut stain maybe to the middle, to the inside, but for here, I want to add some Vintage Photo. So I'm going to apply it to the other side, the opposite side of what I applied the yellow. I'll add my Vintage Photo. Yeah, that's better. I think the walnut will be better for on the inside where the seeds are of the flower. So I'll do this, and then I'll probably add some red also. These are pretty much, when I do my sunflowers, the colors that I stick to. I stick to a brown, a yellow, and then I add a little bit of red to them. It's just what I like. I don't know that it's necessarily realistic, but it's the way I like my sunflowers to look. Whatever works for you as far as colors go, whatever you like when you're coloring your images is what you like, and nothing is wrong. I could have, let's see, I could have a green sunflower if I wanted to have a green sunflower, and it wouldn't be wrong. So I will continue adding this brown, and then I will be back again. So I have the brown on here. Now I want to add a red, but I don't really see that I have the right color red in the Distress crayons. So I think I'm going to pull over here to my watercolors. Try out a couple colors here. That's not right either. So I might have to mix my own. So I take some of this red and add some brown to it. It's really pinky. Give it a little try down here and see what I think. I think I'm not going to like that. No, I don't like that color. So to find just the right color, well, like I said, you can add whatever color you want. I just kind of knew what I wanted, and now I don't have it available to me, and that didn't come up right. So, all right, maybe this one will work. Maybe it's just not going to be a color I'm going to want to add here. Kind of wanted to add some down here. Yeah, it'll be okay. Let's just spread it around with my finger. If I don't feel that's enough yellow in the end, I can go back in and add more. Actually, this is turning out to be an all right color. So what I did to get this color then was I used that, what are my colors here? I used crimson, red, and rose. Less of the rose because it was too pinky. And then I added some sap green and a little bit of black. And that's how I got this burgundy color that I like here. So it just goes to show, if you play with your colors, you can end up getting what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my sunflower, and then again, I'll be back. It looks like it's on fire. I have added some more of the fossilized amber yellow that I was using on here because it kind of got washed out with the red that I was adding. And then on here, I added the fossilized amber and the vintage photo. Now I want to go to it and add a little bit of this walnut stain just around the outside edges of it. I'll just color it on here and then just take my brush and blend these colors in. I tend to go until I don't see, like the crayon goes on and it looks like, I want to say gritty, but it's not really gritty, but it looks gritty. And so when I get that blended out so it looks smoother, then I'm happy with how it looks. So I don't know, but what I think I'm going to add a little bit more because the center of the sunflower should be darker than the outside petals, I feel. And so if I just add a little bit more of this walnut, I really like this walnut on here. And then the very center of my flower, I want to leave a little lighter. Generally, when I'm coloring like this, I will use my watercolors and then I'll go over top of it with colored pencils, not the watercolored pencils, just regular colored pencils. And I can get my shading in with that. But I think for my journal here, I'm just going to quit with the watercolors here. I could, like the tips of my sunflowers here, I could go in and just add a little bit of this really dark walnut stain. But you know what? I think I'm just going to call them done. So there is my memory of my sunflower house with our embossing, which is what sold us the sunflower house to begin with. It's just so funny. So I hope you have enjoyed this process. I thought about adding a pocket or a tag or something, but now after I have my sunflower done, I really don't want to hide it. I just want to leave it like that. And since our it's upside down, that's Sammy playing with a bottle. So since our prompt was memory, as I look through this, I will know that that's reminding me of my sunflower house. Thanks for joining along, and we shall see you again. Have a great day. Bye now.